I was still smelling like lake water when I pulled onto Meadowview Lane and saw my stuff on the curb. My name is Carl Briggs. I'm 58 years old, a retired electrician from Boise, Idaho. I spent 40 years doing work that leaves calluses on your hands and not much in your pockets. I'm not a complicated man. I showed up, I paid my bills, and I tried to do right by my family. That Friday afternoon, I came home from 3 days of fishing at Lucky Peak and found my entire life sitting next to the trash cans. Cardboard boxes ripped open, clothes on the pavement, my toolbox on its side with tools scattered around it. The dresser Donna painted by hand back in 1998, sitting crooked in the grass. My fishing rod snapped clean in half, and right on top of the pile, our wedding photo, glass cracked straight across Donna's face. I sat in my truck with the engine still running and just stared at it. Then I got out. I tried my key. It went in halfway and stopped. New lock. I tried 3 more times. Nothing moved. I called my son Rodney, 3 rings, then voicemail. I called his wife Brenda, straight to voicemail without even ringing. I walked next door to Hank Owens. We'd been neighbors 8 years. He opened the door maybe 4 inches. "Hank, do you know what happened over there? All my stuff is outside and I can't get into the house." He looked somewhere past my shoulder. "Haven't been paying much attention, Carl. Been busy with the yard." Hank hadn't worked in 6 years. He spent most days in his front room watching the street. He knew exactly what happened over there. He just wasn't going to tell me. I went back and pulled my old aluminum lawn chair out of the pile and sat down next to my own belongings. And I waited. Donna passed 8 years ago. Pancreatic cancer, 4 months from diagnosis to the end. After she was gone, the house we'd shared for 22 years felt too empty to stay in. Too quiet, too many rooms with no reason to walk into them. About 6 months after the funeral, Rodney called. He and Brenda had found a house they wanted. 4 bedrooms, good neighborhood outside Boise. The problem was they couldn't qualify for the mortgage on their own. Rodney had some old credit issues. Brenda had just changed jobs. "Dad, if you co-sin with us, the bank will approve it. You'd be helping us get a real start, and you wouldn't have to be alone in that house anymore." I want to be honest. I needed to say yes just as much as he needed to hear it. I wasn't just helping them. I was trying to find somewhere to belong again. So I sold my house, added my name to the deed and the mortgage, and moved into the spare bedroom on Meadowview Lane. The first couple of years were good. Family dinners most nights. Rodney asking me to help fix things. Brenda was polite. I felt useful. I felt like part of something. Then slowly it changed. By 2021, I was eating alone in my room most evenings. Brenda would go quiet when she heard me come into the kitchen. Rodney stopped asking for my opinion. I'd walk into a room and the conversation would stop. I told myself it was stress, work stuff, normal marriage problems. I kept finding reasons to explain away what I was seeing. I was still doing that right up until the day I came home to my stuff on the curb. I sat in that lawn chair for 4 hours. Their car pulled in around 8 p.m. Rodney got out from the driver's side, still in work clothes, moving slow and deliberate. Brenda got out behind him. She didn't look at me. "Rodney, what is going on?" He walked toward the porch, barely slowing down. "We need to talk, Dad. We're talking right now. Why is my stuff on the street?" He stopped on the steps and turned around. No hesitation, no guilt on his face. "You don't live here anymore. We need the room. Brenda's pregnant. The guest room is going to be a nursery. This is my house. My name is on the deed." Brenda finally spoke up, her voice flat like she was reading off a list. "You were useful, Carl, not a homeowner. We don't need you anymore. Go find somewhere else." I looked at Rodney, my son, the kid I taught to ride a bike, helped get through college, co-signed a $300,000 mortgage for. He was looking at a spot somewhere past my shoulder. "Son, look me in the eye and tell me this is what you want." He looked at me, and what I saw wasn't anger, wasn't guilt. It was nothing, just blank and done with it. "The locks are changed, Dad. Don't try to come in." Brenda went inside. Rodney followed. The porch light came on for about 3 seconds. Then clicked off. I stood on the sidewalk with my whole life in a pile behind me. I was not going to yell. I was not going to knock on that door. I was not going to let them watch me fall apart on their front lawn. I was going to think. I loaded what mattered into my truck. The wedding photo went in first, cracked glass and all. Then Donna's jewelry box, my fireproof lockbox with 25 years of important papers inside my tools. A week of clothes. I left the furniture. The dresser Donna painted, the recliner I'd watched football in for 8 years. Leaving it there felt right. That stuff belonged to a version of my life that was already over. I drove to the Budget Inn off the highway and got a room for $52 a night. The room was small, smelled like industrial cleaner, and the heater rattled when it kicked on. I've stayed in worse. I set Donna's jewelry box and our wedding photo on the nightstand. Then I spread every document from my lockbox across the bed and started going through them one by one. Mortgage papers, the original deed, property tax receipts going back 8 years, insurance policies, bank statements. I had kept all of it. Every page, every envelope. 40 years of working with my hands taught me one thing about paperwork. You keep it. You keep it even when you think you'll never need it. Especially then. I went through the deed first. My name, just my name. Rodney and Brenda were nowhere on it. Then the mortgage documents, issued in my name only. I was the sole borrower of record. Every payment for 8 years had come out of my account. I already had a feeling about what this meant, but I kept reading to be sure. Then I pulled out my savings account statements. Rodney had asked me about 20 months ago if he could be added to the account, just so I can help manage things if something happens to you, Dad. Makes it easier for everyone. I thought it made sense at the time. He was my son. I trusted him. I went through the statements line by line, page by page. Over 20 months, $28,000 had left that account in small, irregular amounts. $900 one week, $1,600 the next month, $800 on a random Thursday, $2,100 in automatic flag, always spaced out just enough to look like normal spending. Rodney was the only other person with access to that account. I sat on the edge of the motel bed for a long time, just breathing. This was not an argument that went too far. This was not Brenda losing her temper and saying something she'd regret. The timing of my fishing trip, the new locks already installed when I got home, the $28,000 gone in careful pieces over nearly 2 years. This had been planned, not necessarily from the day I moved in, but for a long while before that Friday. I slept about 2 hours. Saturday morning I was dressed and out the door by 7:30. I stopped at a diner on the way downtown, had coffee and eggs, and wrote out a list of what I needed to do. I'm not a man who works well without a list. Earl Barton's office was on the 3rd floor of a brick building near the Capitol. He worked Saturdays by appointment for urgent matters. His handshake was firm and he didn't talk much before he'd read everything I put in front of him. I liked that about him right away. He read for about 20 minutes without saying anything. When he looked up, he said, "Mr. Briggs, you are the sole legal owner of this property. What about the fact that they've been living there for 8 years? Living somewhere doesn't establish ownership. Without a lease agreement, they're occupants at best. You have full legal authority to sell, reclaim, or otherwise dispose of the property as you see fit. They have no legal claim." He turned the deed toward me and pointed to my name where it appeared in every line that mattered. Rodney and Brenda existed nowhere in the document. "What's it worth right now?" I asked. Comparable sales in that neighborhood put it around $390,000. I had been living like a guest in my own $390,000 house, paying the mortgage, the utilities, the groceries, the repairs, and apparently funding Rodney's personal spending account on top of all of it. I asked Earl to prepare a full ownership summary I could use going forward. While he did that, I called my bank from the chair across his desk. I reported the unauthorized withdrawals from the joint savings account, $28,000 over 20 months. Pattern consistent with deliberate concealment. I gave them the specific dates and amounts I had written down that morning at the diner. The representative told me the account would be flagged and that a formal investigation notice would go out to all account holders within 3 to 5 business days. That meant Rodney would get a letter. Good, here's the thing I want to be clear about, because I have thought about it a lot since then. I was not trying to destroy my son. I was not sitting in that attorney's office dreaming up ways to hurt him. I was filing a factual report about money that left my account without my knowledge or consent. That is not revenge. That is just what you do when someone takes what is not theirs. The consequences that followed were not something I engineered. They were the natural result of what Rodney had done. If you are reading this and you're thinking about adding a family member to your bank account as a convenience, think carefully, not because your family is like mine, but because you should know what that access actually means and what it makes possible. Convenience in one direction can become something else entirely when the relationship changes. I left Earl's office with a folder of documents confirming what I already knew. I owned the house. I had every right to sell it. Next stop was the office of a real estate agent named Sharon Grant. Sharon Grant worked weekends and had a small office near the River District. She pulled up the property address before I even finished explaining, looked at the comparable sales on her screen, and nodded slowly. "That's a good neighborhood. Strong demand right now. What kind of timeline are you working with?" "Fast as possible. I want it listed by Tuesday. Professional photos Monday morning. I'll take a serious offer quickly." "What about the current occupants?" "They'll need to make their own arrangements. I'm the owner." "That part is settled." She looked at me for a moment, probably doing the math on the family situation. Then she moved on and stayed professional the whole way through, which I appreciated. We spent about an hour going over pricing, showing schedules, and what a fast close would look like. By 5 p.m., I had signed the listing agreement and Sharon had a photographer scheduled for Monday at 9 a.m. I drove back to the Budget Inn, stopped at a gas station for a sandwich and a coffee, and sat on the edge of the motel bed, going through my list again. Lawyer, done. Bank report filed, done. Listing agreement signed, done. One thing left. I booked a flight to Cancun leaving Sunday at 10 a.m. One carry-on bag. I picked Cancun because it was warm, it was far, and I had never been there. No particular reason beyond that. Sometimes that is enough of a reason. Then I turned my phone completely off. Not on silent, off. I slept 9 hours straight, which was the best sleep I had gotten in longer than I could remember. I want to say something about those 3 weeks in Cancun, because people ask me if I felt guilty being on a beach while all of that was unfolding back in Boise. I did not feel guilty, not even a little. I had spent 8 years making myself useful to 2 people who had been planning, at some point along the way, to cut me loose the moment they no longer needed my money. I had paid their mortgage, bought their groceries, covered their utilities, fixed everything that broke in that house, and quietly absorbed 3 years of being treated like furniture. I had earned 3 weeks in the sun without apologizing to anyone for it. The resort was nothing fancy. A mid-range place, clean and quiet, with a pool that faced the ocean and a beach bar that opened at noon. I read 4 books in 3 weeks. I ate fish tacos and drank cold beer in the afternoon. I sat on the balcony at night and listened to the waves. On day 3, I turned my phone on. It took about a full minute just to load everything. 63 missed calls, 44 voicemails, more texts than I bothered to count. I went through them in order, which meant starting with Rodney's messages from Saturday morning, about 18 hours after I had driven away from the house. The first few were demanding. Dad, there are people outside taking pictures of the house. Call me back right now. Then confused. What is going on? Sharon Grant says she is listing this property for you. Is this some kind of mistake then, something that started to sound like real panic? Dad, the bank sent a letter. There is an investigation. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you need to stop this. Brenda's messages had a different tone, more calculated at the start. Carl, you do not have the legal standing to sell this property without our consent. We have spoken to an attorney then. A few days later, that changed too. Carl, please, we have nowhere to go. We have a baby coming. Just call us. There was also a message from Sharon Grant, left Monday afternoon after the photography session. Mr. Briggs, we had a great shoot this morning. Property is going live on the MLS tomorrow morning. Already have 2 showing requests for Wednesday, and then 1 more from Sharon Thursday afternoon. Mr. Briggs, I have a strong offer from a young couple named Marvin and Linda Colby. They are pre-approved, ready to close in 21 days, and they came in at $388,000. They said this is exactly the house they have been looking for. Please advise. I looked at that message for a moment. Then I typed back 1 word, accept. I put the phone down, ordered another beer, and watched the water for a while. I thought about the 8 years, not with anger exactly, more like I was trying to understand how I had let it go on that long. The answer, if I'm being honest, is that I wanted to believe it was working. I wanted to believe that Rodney still needed me around, and that Brenda had come around to accepting me. When things got colder, I told myself it was temporary. When I started eating alone in my room, I told myself they were busy. I kept adjusting down what I expected from them so that whatever they gave me, even if it was almost nothing, still felt like enough. That is a slow way to disappear. I'm not saying Rodney had bad intentions from day one. Maybe he didn't. Maybe the plan to push me out only formed later, once the mortgage was nearly paid off and I had become more inconvenient than useful. It doesn't change what he did. But I stopped needing to assign a motive after a while. What happened, happened. What I did about it, I did. That was enough. I stayed in Cancun for the full 3 weeks, same as I had planned. Then I flew home. I came back with a tan and a clear head. My taxi pulled into the parking lot of my downtown apartment building on a Tuesday afternoon. I had rented the place month to month while I was getting everything sorted. Small, basic, nothing on the walls. It was fine. I was not planning to stay long. I was pulling my bag out of the trunk when I heard them. Rodney and Brenda were crossing the parking lot toward me. Rodney looked like he had not slept properly in weeks. His work clothes were wrinkled. He had lost weight. Brenda was walking beside him, and the put-together look she always kept up was gone. She just looked tired and a little scared. I set my bag down and waited. Carl, thank God, Brenda spoke first. We have been trying to find you everywhere, your old co-workers, the fishing club, Donna's sister in Twin Falls. Nobody knew where you went. Rodney stopped a few feet away. He couldn't quite look at me directly. Dad, I know what we did was wrong. I know how it looks. But please, just talk to us before this goes any further. Don't sell the house. I looked at my son for a moment, not with anger. More like I was seeing him clearly for the first time in a while. Let me make sure I have this right, I said. 3 weeks ago you told me I didn't live there anymore. Brenda told me to go find somewhere else. You had already changed the locks before I got home from fishing. You had planned this. Neither of them said anything. And somewhere in the 20 months before that, $28,000 left my savings account in small amounts, on a schedule that was just irregular enough to not trigger any alerts. You were the only other person on that account, Rodney. His jaw tightened. Still nothing. We can pay rent, Brenda said. Whatever the new owners want. We have good credit, steady income. Just ask them to give us some time to figure things out. That is between you and them. I'll pass your number along if they ask. Dad, Rodney stepped forward. His voice cracked a little on the word, I made a mistake. What we did, I know it was wrong. You're my father. You can't just walk away from that. I looked at him for a long moment. You walked away first. I said, you just did it quietly, over a few years, so I wouldn't notice until it was done. I picked up my bag. You taught me that family has conditions. I didn't want to learn that lesson, but you were thorough about teaching it. I walked inside. The elevator doors closed on whatever he said next. The closing with Marvin and Linda Colby was that Thursday morning at the title company. They were young, maybe early 30s, and excited about everything. Linda had already picked out paint colors for 2 of the rooms. Marvin kept asking practical questions about the furnace and the roof, the kind of questions a man asks when he is serious about taking care of a place. I signed the papers, shook their hands, wished them well, and meant it. The check was $388,000. I sat in the parking lot of the title company for a few minutes with that check on the seat beside me. 40 years of electrical work, 8 years of mortgage payments on a house I apparently owned the whole time, a marriage's worth of savings. It had all flowed in one direction for a very long time. Now it was coming back. I drove past Meadowview Lane on the way out of that part of town. I don't know exactly why. I slowed down in front of the house and looked at it for a minute through the window. It looked the same as it always had. Good bones, nice yard. The kind of house that deserved a family that actually wanted to be there. I drove on. 2 days later, I was heading north toward Montana with my truck loaded and no particular schedule to keep. I had already put down a cash offer on a small cabin near Flathead Lake. 2 bedrooms, a wood stove, and a dock that needed some work. The dock I would fix myself. I had the tools for it and the time. The radio played old country. The sky opened up wide once I cleared the city. Every mile felt lighter than the one before it. I thought about Rodney once, somewhere past the Idaho-Montana border. Not with bitterness. More like the feeling you get when you finally stop arguing with something that already happened. He had made his choices, I had made mine. The math was done. Donna used to say I was better at building things than I ever gave myself credit for. She said it about the deck I put on the back of our first house, and she said it other times too, when she meant something bigger than wood and nails. She was right then. I think she would say the same thing now. The cabin was waiting, the lake was waiting, and for the first time in a long time, so was I. If any part of this story felt familiar to you, pass it on. There are a lot of men out there who have spent years being useful to people who stopped being grateful a long time ago. You're allowed to stop. You're allowed to walk away with your dignity and your paperwork and whatever is left in the account. The door you close might be the first one you have ever closed on your own terms. That counts for something. It counts for a lot.